now listening to the Film Situation podcast.
So tonight on the Film Situation, we have producer, writer, director Sean A. Reid, a filmmaker who's associated with the Atlanta independent film scene and co-founder of World One TV. Are you the founder or the co-founder?
I'm the co-founder. I've got partners.
Okay, cool. So welcome, Sean.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
So I guess tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I was born a poor black child. You know, it's an interesting kind of when you open it up that way. I guess the key elements for me about me is that I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, but then I managed to move so much that I went to about 9 different schools in my first 12 years of schooling, which I think really...
Wow, 9. So you were always the new kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was always the new kid.
I was the new kid a lot, but not quite that much. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to 3 different high schools.
Does that mean that you always had a chance to reinvent yourself?
Yes. I was always, I didn't really have to, I had an aspiration to act, but by the time I'd gotten to 18 or 19, I'd been acting so much that I really didn't need that expression. You know, I show up in everything that I've done one way or another. I'll walk through or, you know, be there, you know, more Alfred Hitchcocky style, you know, show up in the back of the party and, oh, there he's walking through.
Yeah.
As I'm more, because I am all of the characters on some level, that I've gotten to be the jock and the geek and the, you know, a little bit of the rebel and the guy that got in trouble. I got to play a lot of different roles. And I think that in and of itself kind of set me up for, you know, wanting to be a filmmaker, even though it wasn't necessarily it wasn't a mystery to me because my dad was a journalist. Before he really became a filmmaker. So that
is that why you guys were moving all the time and stuff?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, my dad and my mom were, I'm guessing I'm a little bit older than you, Zef, just a little bit. So, you know, I was one of those first parents, you know, kid with parents who were divorced in the 70s.
Gotcha.
By the time I was 3, they were divorced. So that's like 1973. That's really early for the divorce boom. So their being divorced and him being a journalist kind of made it both where I was moving a lot. You know, going back and forth between the different houses and the different things. I also didn't just have different schools. I had different homes sometimes and would go back and forth between the different homes as well. So it was, you know, stabilizing in the sense of, you know, I had my poetry because I started writing poetry really young. I had stories that I was writing. And I kind of was always playing some kind of sport. I love tennis. So I kept that with me. And so I had all these things that I kind of have now. I have tennis. You know,
tennis is a sport I wish I played actually right now. I don't have any free time, but it seems fun.
Free time is an issue. When you're writing scripts and things, it can be difficult because I tend to write on sprints, you know, marathons where I'll go away for, you know, a month and a half. And
I do the same thing, by the way. I'm a similar style of writer where I like to do marathon sessions of writing, you know?
Yeah, I prefer the dig-in approach actually works better for me, where I just go in and I just tackle it until it's done, or at least the phase is done, and then I come back out and go, oh, the world is here.
Yeah, it feels like you stepped out of a vortex, right?
Mm-hmm. Or my fiance describes it as time traveling. You know, that I'm hitting a portal, you know, and I go through that portal and I'm in that place for that amount of time, and I get to stay there until, you know, somebody knocks on the door or I can't do it anymore. You know, so that's that helps a lot though, because when you can imbibe in that sense or you think of it that way, I think once you tasted that, it's easier to get back to it.
Is your fiance involved in the film industry as well?
No, an electrical engineer by trade.
Okay.
So
yeah, good balance. Yeah.
Yeah, good balance. I tend to have been around with by others, and others often been more mathematical than I am because I have no mathematical abilities at all, but I do appreciate it.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll get into that. But it seems like you're very, because I heard you on an interview talking about the business side of filmmaking. So, which is, you know, more mathematical. But I guess when did you learn, at what age did you sort of realize that you wanted to gravitate toward film?
I would say that on some level I was gravitating towards it before I really knew it because my dad was taking me to work with him when I would come to visit. So starting it as early as I could fly, I was getting on a plane by myself, getting my little wings, going to, New York or Atlanta or some, California, and seeing my dad, and spending up until a certain age, I would just spend the summer going to work with him. And then when he took a vacation, we took a vacation. So it was a very kind of unconventional.
What sort of journalist was your dad, by the way? Yeah.
He worked he was an investigative journalist at one point. He was also the bureau chief, the CBS bureau chief for the Northeast Bureau in CBS. So when we lived in New York, he was running the Northeast Bureau. So we'd go in and Dan Rather would be, that's
Dan
Rather's
that's pretty cool.
Basically running Northeast would be New York and the surrounding area, right? So that's like the number one beat for that network news. So I got to sit and watch people like Dan Rather or in California, Jim Hill on air.
Did you see the David Fincher movie Zodiac?
Oh, I love Zodiac.
That's so good. I figured you might like that one because it's kind of like ties into that world in that era.
Yeah, I mean, Zodiac, ultimately, if you look at these timelines that I'm dealing with and we're talking about, Zodiac is just before Zebra, which is what I've been working on, that 1973, 74. Zodiac, I think, is 71, 72. And that's the one I'm 1 and 2 years old, 3 and 4 years old in that timeline.
Yeah.
Where my dad is an active journalist. And even in the Zebra investigation I've done, the guy, I went and found out this archival footage, and we're completely going a different direction.
Well, you know what? Give some context, I guess, for the audience, because people are familiar with the Zodiac, but maybe not as familiar with the Zebra. So give some context there.
Okay, so Zebra was a series of, unfortunately, racially motivated killings that happened in 1973 and 1974 in San Francisco. They were perpetrated by the Nation of Islam, and it transpired for 179 days. It literally shut down the city. Some of there were, I believe, 12 actual people who died, and there were over 22 to 23 people who were victims of it.
Wow.
One of the people was Art Agnews, who eventually became the mayor at one time of San Francisco. And I tell the story from the perspective, and I've investigated it from the perspective of the person who turned them in. There was one particular person who, Anthony Harris, who was recruited through prison, and he actually turned them in. There's no record of why and how he did it, so that's kind of my fictionalized part of the story. And then the rest of it is taken from real news broadcasts and newspapers. And it turns out the very first video that I saw that was made had a reporter in it named Bob Jimenez, who happens to be a really good family friend. And I just didn't connect it. And I brought my dad in and I was talking about it later. And he's like, "Oh, that's Bob. You don't remember Bob?"
That name sounds so familiar. Was he also involved in the reporting of the Zodiac killing stuff?
He may have been, because he was in San Francisco at that time. But I will, try to create a link for you guys. It's actually in the archive, the San Francisco archive, his report. That's the first one when Richard and Quita Hay were attacked in San Francisco. That very first.
Gotcha.
Those very first video.
So this was like a series of political killings, essentially, or?
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, the Nation of Islam had a belief that, that white people were the devil.
Right. That we were made in a lab by Yaqub, right?
Yes, very good. Wow.
I know a little bit.
Yes.
I read the RZA's autobiography. That's why. From the Wu-Tang.
So read it. Yeah. If you knowing that information, but that's where it comes from. I went and read those books. I read a whole bunch of Nation of Islam stuff. I've read the FBI files on the Nation of Islam. And it's just really complex. And I guess having a dad who was a journalist, and I call myself, I was a faux journalist. It kind of appeals to my,
well, it ties into the film. I think like if you're a filmmaker and you have that proclivity, it means you're very curious about things and human nature and stories. And so, yeah, it all ties in.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's, there's, writing is writing on some level, but we definitely have, different genres and different sects of things that intersect in different ways, but they definitely have their own disciplines and their own things. I love making documentaries because it's completely opposite of making a movie on some level.
Yes. Right. Because sometimes you're figuring the story out after you get the footage. You're weaving the story together.
To be perfectly honest, on every single one I've ever done, yes, I have a preconceived notion, but I'm always weaving it together and really going back and inhabiting what did I really get.
Right. As any. I've also worked on documentary stuff too. And it's a lot more challenging in the post-production, like big time, especially if you have a lot of footage and you're like, all right, well, what do I keep in? What do I take out? Well, how is the narrative sort of shifting here, and for sure. So is this a project that is like you've released, or is it not yet released? Like something you're working on?
Zebra is in the it's not released. It's not been shot. It's something I've been working on a script for like a really long time. I'd say over 15 years.
Oh, wow. So it's a passion. It's like a deep passion project.
Deep passion project. Actually, after I saw Monster,
Charlize Theron. Yeah, it's great. I bet Eileen Wuornos. Yeah.
Yeah, that made me go, well, I've never seen really a black serial killer movie. Why haven't I seen a black serial killer movie? So that started me on this down this rabbit hole of research for years, which, the Black Serial Killers Truth or Fiction I did, which kind of got out before because it's like, hey, guys, there are black serial killers. I just find it amazing when people still go, no, there are not black serial killers. It's like, okay, now it's okay that we don't have, look, people don't need a bunch more stigma. And I'm not trying to I'm really not trying to put one more stigma on us.
Right.
But I'm also, from other perspective, trying to protect black women, black children, black people, and other people, because black serial killers do kill outside of the race, just like other serial killers can kill outside of the race, although they do tend to kill within their own race.
Yeah.
It tends to be the biased thing. But they do, and they have.
Yeah.
But in most cases, they do. So 22% of serial killers functioning in the United States, they believe right now, are of African-American descent. And Samuel Little, who you've probably heard his name before, is as the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history.
I've definitely heard the name, but I don't know much about any of the story. I can't tell you what era he was from or anything like that.
He actually was prolific for 4 decades.
Wow. That's crazy.
And not just
what decades? Like when did he start and when did he stop?
I think he's 70s through 2000s.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah. And he was
is he dead now? Is he gone?
He died in prison. And you can see videos of him, his confessions and those things, and they really do believe that he could be as high as 98 or more. He had an eidetic memory, so he could describe the woman, describe the circumstances. He would do a drawing of it. But this is one very sick and not anybody to be romanced type of individual.
Yeah, that's something that really kind of creeps me out, that we're living in times where people are sort of, I think like even with Dahmer, I didn't watch the Dahmer thing, but like I've seen like there's kind of like this romanticizing of like these serial killers, which is something that freaks me out on a very deep level.
Well, and that's kind of, I mean, to be honest, when I started to really get into it, that's what was kind of the disturbing part, is because of the way the media plays a part into making these individuals or making this happen, that with all of our kind of Jim Crow past and slavery past, we've kind of put this great, like, oh, they're only geniuses that are doing this. So that's why black males are not serial killers, because they're not geniuses. It's like, well, as Dr. Alan Branson says, it's like, if I'm a predator, if I'm a successful predator, well, that's a genius, isn't it? You know
Yeah,
what
I
I
see
mean?
what you're
If you're
saying.
not getting
Yeah.
caught, you're a predator and you're doing your thing, well, that is a genius.
Right. A
Scary.
diabolical one, but still somebody that's vastly
Yeah.
intelligent.
Vastly intelligent, operating in a certain way that keeps them undercover. Samuel Little was preying upon, prostitutes and lost people. He was someone who was on the streets and wandered and was whatever. So he never went and, did like kill somebody who unfortunately somebody cares about. And
Yeah.
that's unfortunate, as the cops say. It's like, if you don't have anybody who's going to be showing up, knocking on that door or calling or saying, where's my kid or where's my thing? There's a chance you're going to go missing.
100%, man. And one thing that's extremely unfortunate, because I've definitely watched a lot of like true crime sort of shows and things like that, that people from the black community, there's more, sometimes the police are just not as fast to look for people. Because I noticed one time it was like so apparent, because there was a girl that went missing on like one episode of some show I was watching, and the girl's parents were like, hey, like, find my daughter. And they're like, no, she's probably hanging out and this sort of stuff. And they're like, no, she's not, like, something's wrong. And then it was like days later that they really did an active investigation. And then I was watching this other thing where there was like this Quaker girl in like, that lived in like Amish town of Pennsylvania, and she didn't come home for like half an hour. She was like half an hour late. And then there was like a total like search in the town of like, what's going on? Like, where is she? It was such a stark difference.
It is it can be, and that's part of, a lot of the interior of my documentary, in terms of like, it's really about a perception and about how we perceive. And like, if you had gone into, the DC sniper guys and said, hey, I think that these are two black guys, they would have laughed at you.
Right. I see.
They would literally laughed at you and said, oh, no, it can't be. So it's like, there is literally like a, and from an interior thought like process, like I said, well, why are you picking at this? Well, I'm picking at this because then these are people like Samuel Little that can go on for, 40 years and be killing my sister, my mother, my cousin. You know what I mean? I want to protect them just as much as you want to protect anybody in your community, just like we want to protect everybody in our community. But
Absolutely.
I see that as special victimization that's going on, that I like calling attention to, because I think it really, what more noble thing really, ultimately, I'm not trying to glorify serial killers. I'm trying to help protect victims.
Well, I think that's a good intentionality for sure.
I would hope.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it sounds like an interesting project. I definitely would love to see that come to fruition. So keep us informed.
Yeah, Zebra, we're still working on Black Serial Killers, Truth or Fiction as a documentary can be seen. It's all over the place. I am working on a part 2, which is probably the Atlanta Ripper. There was a series of cases in this century that they never caught a serial killer as well, that they suspect was black, that they could never catch in Atlanta.
Yeah. Gotcha. So about like 100 years ago, a little bit more, like 1900, early 1900s, you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you live in Atlanta? Is that where you're based out of?
I am. Yeah, I'm about 20 minutes south of Atlanta in what they call Fayetteville, Georgia. Very great small town where Philip Studios, which used to be Pinewood, is located. So that's where a lot of Marvel were shot.
Nice.
I've never done anything over there, but it's a beautiful facility.
Yeah.
But it's a great place. It's a great part of town. There's a lot of people in the industry around this part of town.
I was just in that area a few months ago in October. I was producing a feature film in Fairburn, Georgia.
I know Fairburn.
Yeah,
Yes,
one
I
of
have
my
a friend who owns a house there.
nice. Yeah, one of my good friends, Greg, he lives out in Fairburn, and we're filming the project at his place. He's got like a home and like a studio there. So yeah, it was cool. Actually, I loved it. Like really enjoyed being there. And I tried a fast food place for the first time called Zaxby's, and they don't have that up here where I live.
Zaxby's is quite good.
It's so good. It was so good. Yeah. So what was, I guess, your first feature film that you worked on and that like you produced?
Well, the first one that I produced was Redemption, which was formerly called Bad Vibes, Brown Eyes. That came out in 2001 and starred Brian White and TJ Storm, another actor named Daryl Igus, who was actually in so many different things. I randomly just saw him on the Love Boat the other night with my stepmother in it. So it was pretty wild. And I didn't even know that. But so that was...
Was your stepmother an actress?
My stepmother was an actress. It's no longer my stepmother since they're divorced. But Belinda Talbert on The Jeffersons was my stepmother. My dad was married to her for about 10 years.
Cool.
And so I got to watch her too. So that was... And meet a lot of people around the Jeffersons. So I'm kind of officially part of that big tree that really includes, Lenny Kravitz and, so there, because he's
Lenny Kravitz, really?
Lenny Kravitz is Roxy Rooker's son. Cy Kravitz is father. Cy Kravitz was a journalist and marketing when my dad actually knows Cy.
So you knew, did you know Lenny Kravitz like as a kid?
I never got to meet Lenny. He would come to the house and play music with my dad when I was away. So my dad knows him well and they played music, but I've never actually gotten to meet him because of just timing. But he actually, I guess, knows that I exist.
Yeah. It's a small world, I guess.
So very small world.
No, definitely. And especially the film world becomes a small world for sure. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about like your process of raising funds for these projects, because that's something that's how I became familiar with you, because I saw an interview with you on not Film Threat, but I forget.
Film I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And we did talk a lot about fundraising.
Yeah, and I thought what you were saying was really interesting. You had a lot of interesting points about fundraising, and is that something? How active are you raising funds, I guess?
Right now, I'm actively looking to raise funds. I'm putting together a package right now, and I have kind of multiple different things that I'm working with. I'm also working with a couple producers trying to help them actually get MGs. Where they actually had money, they're willing to spend it, but then just, wanting a minimum guarantee, some place where they can take it as a promise that they'll get a certain amount.
What's the process of like, how difficult is it to get a MG? It seems like a difficult thing.
Very difficult. It can be very difficult, and it oddly sometimes can be not that difficult. I've had people offer me an MG and I just wasn't ready for it, and then it's gone. And I've had, projects that are like really stationed to it, having difficult getting them.
When you say you weren't ready for it, was it contingent on we'll give you an MG, but we need this actor attached, and you didn't have that actor attached, sort of thing?
You need this actor attached. You need to be able to make it in this amount of time because we really are looking to fill this slot.
Yeah.
And we were looking for something so specific that I really couldn't necessarily fill it in the same amount of time. So you really got to let it go. If you're not able to really deliver what they want. So, and those are kind of preliminary. You never really know what something like that. But then I've also had, I've got opportunities now where it's more trying to just fill a funnel. I have World One TV, which is our own streaming network that I co-founded a few years ago. It's almost 5 years ago with Brian White, the actor, who people know from, I guess, what do you know Brian from? Almost anything. You can look him up. He's got
He's
a
known
movie coming
for
out called Amazon right now.
he's in a TV series called Ambitions that has 18 episodes that he was in. The Family Stone. Ray Donovan, he was in a bunch of episodes of
The Shield. He was in The Shield.
Criminal
He
Minds.
was in, yeah, he's been around for quite a while. He's actually just done some Criminal Minds, and they are, I believe, just announced The Family Stone 2. That he'll be coming out in, where they're kind of doing a reunion type of Diane Keaton tribute type of thing, where they're bringing everybody back.
Gotcha.
So and then Chris Brown is an entertainment attorney that is also happens to represent New Edition and a lot of other people. If you do some research on him, you'll see that he actually has a podcast called Verdicts and Vibes out of Boston. And those are my two partners. And with World One, we've been trying to build a platform that is an actual place that, one, subscription-based, no commercials, which sometimes is not as popular as it used to be. I still don't like commercials. I don't know about you. We're getting more and more of them.
Yeah. I mean, I'll watch a lot of films on like Tubi, and sometimes some of the commercials are just like 1 out of 6 commercials. You're like, all right, it's a little too much.
Well, and I've been watching a lot of, the family in the house, and I think we're watching Disney right now, and watching the new Scrubs and the old Scrubs, and we're getting these commercials, political commercials for the guy who's running for governor here in Georgia, and they're just driving us crazy. It's like almost making me not want to watch that particular service for a while, because there's it's back to back to back, these commercials. I mean, he's spending huge amounts of money.
I see.
And it's like you can't get around them.
Yeah.
So we don't have commercials, and we're also associated within the Black Network, which is more of a kind of a Tubi, where you can watch things in their commercials. So we have a line on
advertising video on demand, like AVOD kind of model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they've got fast channels, and you can go tune on to that free and just see stuff. Which like a Tubi. And then, so we're trying to branch that, trying to not have to go to Tubi. We all know the Tubi rates went down, in terms of what they're paying out for numbers. I can get a lot of hits on Tubi, but it doesn't really mean a lot of money anymore.
Right. That's true.
So, trying to create different markets for yourself and for other filmmakers has been something I've been working on personally for the last 4 to 5 years, and then working with Jay Horton as a filmmaker who we distribute a small amount of films through different platforms, and so we get to kind of keep track of, how does this work with the numbers? Getting this numbers. Yes, but
I'll tell you from our
specifically about. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'll say one thing that I have seen, like when I look at the numbers from our distribution company, because it shows us the quarterly kind of payouts from all the other films. And then I'll see certain like urban films that are making crazy money. Like a crazy.
There's still some niche films on Tubi, especially that you can still definitely make. And it's mainly in that, I did produce a film, Deadly Attraction, which I know is doing very well. I never saw exactly what the numbers was. I was more of a physical producer on that one.
Gotcha.
I tend to be, in the last few years, I've tended to make more kind of like monster horror, kind of low budget creature stuff.
Yeah.
And it's had trouble finding, I think, the market as much as like if it was just a nice gangster urban, shoot 'em up.
Yeah. Has there ever been any temptation to do like a gangster sort of thing just because it is so lucrative?
As a producer, like I think that I'm willing to do those types of things with the right opportunities. Wherever you see, I end up doing Black Circular Truth and Fiction's probably made me more than anything I've ever done in terms of that type of thing. And I spent the least amount of money on it.
Interesting.
And it's really just conceptually, it's just more about idea. This is more about the idea.
And it's straight up a documentary, right?
It's a straight up documentary.
Interesting.
more like,
And
more than
is that
anything.
like,
More
is
than
that
we're
making
attempting.
money from actual rentals or the AVOD or?
Amazon, I get rentals on Amazon. I get a good amount of hits on Tubi, but where I'm actually really still making money, like 3 years later on the title, is when the quarterly comes out from YouTube.
From YouTube?
YouTube tends to really, for documentaries, especially main YouTube.
Like
So
watching it for free on YouTube, just with ads and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Watching it on that YouTube, whatever their premium so-called thing is, when you get purchased up through that one,
Yeah.
it tends to really, it tends to pay. And especially if you hit the right niche. That's why I've done some Bigfoot stuff. We've got in the library, I've only done 2 things are Bigfoot titles, but in our library, I think it's like 30 to 40% of them are Bigfoot titles, because they continue to make, there's just an audience that is voracious for those. And it does not have to be of a super high quality. It just has to really speak to that audience.
Gotcha. And are you working with a distribution company, or are you self-distributing?
Well, I guess I'd call it a hybrid. We're pretty much non-exclusive. We use, like a lot of people, Film Hub. We use you probably have heard of Indie Rights, maybe.
Familiar. Yeah, our film is on Indie. My feature film is on Indie Rights.
Okay, so Indie Rights. So you could see numbers. I can see your numbers.
Right. Exactly.
And then there's
and that's what I'm talking. So you know what I'm talking about. You see some of the films on Indie Rights that are like urban films. You're like, wait a minute. Yeah, I might maybe I might not put this part on the podcast, but some of the money, some of the numbers are so high when you're like $60,000 per quarter. Are they fucking money laundering? Like, what is happening here? Like, you know what I mean? Like some of them are so high that it makes me wonder if they're money laundering.
Well, the crazy thing is they also can make them, that's a movie that'll be made in Detroit.
Yeah.
And it will be made by somebody where it is a genuine voice. They are casting. There are specific names that if you put into those titles, you will get. People will watch it, and they're not necessarily SAG names or any of that stuff. It's, influencers. It's Hoops. Do you remember Hoops from the Flavor of Love? Hoops is still it's somebody.
Yeah.
She can actually, in that arena.
Got you.
She's somebody, or Claudia.
So you're the second person that was telling me now about like the Detroit thing, like how there's like that's almost like a subgenre of the urban brand is like specifically in Detroit, the Detroit market, and like having films that take
I'm an Ohio.
place.
Well, I'm a Cleveland native, and it's like, Detroit in itself has had so much infrastructure fall down that they can go shoot almost anywhere. They kind of have the city open to themselves. There's Dennis Reid, who's pretty famous out there, and who's one of the first big Tubi guys. That's somebody you should try to talk to. That he's kind of the guy he's kind of one of the guys in Detroit, or one of the guys in Detroit. And then there's a company now called Filmmaking that's out of Detroit that's doing marketing for movies.
Yeah.
And I believe there's a couple, and I'm trying to think, there was another company, because Dennis was part of another company and he split up. I think he was part of Homestead and he split off. So it's there's a lot of stuff going on in that Midwest pocket, that's pretty interesting. And
you think that's all like, it's just like there's that much of an audience that are like, they're getting that kind of numbers?
There's still an underserved audience in the kind of that kind of black subgenre type of thing, where they will consume that certain level that's just like something you and I might watch and go, but it's still something that's like a genuine. It speaks to the audience, and it has people in it that looks like them, and that's like the thing. Like there's used to be, I don't know if it's still on there on YouTube, called Atlanta, that it has millions and millions of views in Atlanta, and it is just a very simply made but genuine, piece.
Like
and I think that sometimes it's just about the audience, and what the audience is demanding. So, I mean, if verticals, or people consuming verticals the way they are, then it doesn't necessarily have to be what we think is aesthetically beautiful. It just has to be what the story is, what they're looking for.
I know it's funny you talk about that, because when I was making the feature in Fairburn, the makeup artist was talking about how she's working on a lot of verticals, and that they're getting funding for verticals, and I'm like, wow, I was just surprised. That's something I don't know if I have it in me to do, the verticals. That
I'm not sure. I've looked at it. I'm trying to understand it, and I'm looking into it, but I don't know if I necessarily. I think that we always have all these different waves that go on in Hollywood, and we each have seen different waves. Redemption was shot with the Sony 900. We were one of the first independent films to shoot with that camera, and I remember how everyone was saying how much that was going to change the industry. And it did, but it didn't. It actually, shooting on video takes just as long as it takes shooting on anything else.
Right.
It's there's a process that you have to go through, and the more, just because you can roll more, that just means that you're gonna roll more, which means you have so many other things you have to wrangle, and all that data wrangling is kind of what makes up for having to wrangle film, right?
Yeah,
data wrangling is. A DIT is, basically doing the same thing, and it takes just as much time. So it didn't really save anything except for, but when you talk about the workflow and being able to do things like presets, like that was a big thing for me and Fritz. And our Fritz was like, well, Sean, watch, we can do A or B. And we'd be like, okay, we joke. We'd be like, no, Fritz, give me this, give me the whatever. And we'd already know what we wanted in those circumstances. And that was one of the beauties of that's an innovation. It wasn't this. So sometimes things are changing, and they're trying to tell you that this is going to change it in a certain way, but they don't know.
Right.
It's just like we were talking about that. Like we were talking about, that HD was going to change theaters and was going to help maintain quality, and being able to digitally put the theater, have the print come down digitally and all that stuff. But then nobody wanted to pay for it for like 20 years. So, it's always one thing or another that, we're trying to experience. I mean, I love this thing.
Yeah.
This is one of the best, I do love this. And, having gotten to talk to Sean Baker a lot about working with him,
have you spoken to I've met him before. He's a nice guy.
I got to interview him for Tangerine, around when he did Tangerine.
Yeah.
After Tangerine, we did something with Movie Maker magazine with him, and I got to go to his house and spend some time with him. And
I know he's a collector of movie posters.
Yes, and at that point, he's also really big into preservation. How do we hold up these things? How do we keep, our prints? How do we keep our movies? I've got Redemption in there on hard drive, drives and on HD tape somewhere. So
it's funny. I have I was going to show it to you. I have the Blu-ray of Venora by my desk, actually, and I bought it it was like the first Blu-ray I'd bought in years, but just because I wanted to watch it with Sean Baker's audio like director's commentary and stuff.
Well, I think it's definitely worth it. And I think I love the fact that we are getting back to physical media. I just need to get an appropriate player again. I keep getting tempted to buy stuff on Amazon and, just to buy it so I have it. But then it's like, well, what if something happens to Amazon? Or what if I decide I don't want to use Amazon anymore? There's certain things I'd like to just have.
Right.
Like even just your own movie. I'd like to be able to see my movie with a DVD. It was released on DVD, Redemption. So it's not it did have a theatrical little small because it had its screenings. But that was really truly, especially that window back in the day, it was really about DVD was like a thing, with the DVD release every Tuesday. I think we were with a Kit Pardue movie and another movie that we were packaged with for Lionsgate. And it was so exciting when I went to Hollywood Video and I could see them all lined up there. I didn't make any money from that part of it. But
it's still pretty cool. See. Yeah. I mean, as a filmmaker, that's what you want to see. You want to see that, like, wow, somebody is, people are seeing your work and it's out there.
Yeah, it was nice being able to go, okay, I can physically touch this thing that I've made, having made all these other things that are not as like a craving that, that wasn't necessarily something that we did actually, he did go making DVDs. And so we have made DVDs for a lot of our movies and Blu-rays, because that's a secondary market that actually you can get some decent sales on. Even the documentaries, by the way, Walmart,
Really?
people in Walmart will buy those videos. Oh yeah.
Interesting.
It's usually only good for like, you usually only really get like one good quarter, kind of like you would, whatever. And then that's pretty much it. Cause it's like, it's new and they see it, they grab it. And then that's then it just kind of hits the pile like everything else.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk like funding on your projects. Are you comfortable like talking about like what's the most amount of money you've raised for any particular project?
The most money in one check was 40 grand. The most amount was probably in the end what we did for Redemption, which is probably in the end about 200, 250.
So is it like from like half a dozen or so investors or like that kind of thing?
Yeah, and two multiple different pools. It was like I was working at E, and it's interesting because I'm writing this. I've just written that in my blog. So it's not my blog, much notes from the field. But it was like I was working at E, and a guy introduced me to a guy, and that opened it up, and that basically made it so that my first money was from somebody I didn't know, which is I think really important.
Yeah, that's substantial.
Because then it brought in my dad, who was in the industry, as we've said, and his friends, all the media people. They all kind of then chipped in.
Then it kind of snowballed because they saw that you were getting some traction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then at the end, at a certain point, it just became pull it out of your own pocket because you can't bring it. You don't want to bring in anybody else. You don't want to dilute it, and you need to finish it.
I know how that goes.
So
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So those I still don't know exactly how much was pulled out of my pocket. I don't want to know.
And then once you start, it's hard to quantify with the sweat equity, right? Like I call it McDonald's hours. Like if I was working at McDonald's, how much money would I be making for all these hours? Like it adds up, even if it's just minimum wage, it would like all these hundreds of hours would add up to some sort of level of money,
Well, absolutely. And I mean, and spending that time just really thinking about the project, like putting it together, scheduling it, putting together your deck, putting it together different things. It's interesting because I'm really going through that. I've just kind of completed that process again with Zebra in terms of I'm just about to start going out. And that's a substantial amount more money I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for 1.9 million.
And how many times have you been through the gauntlet? Like how many films have you raised money for?
I've helped raise money for like 4 or 5 other films besides Redemption. So there's been about 3 other films that I've helped raise money for or help with the distribution and successfully did some.
Yeah.
Zebra is the next one that I'm raising money for a project that's mine. And so this will be the first time in a while that I've gone out. I haven't directed anything narrative since I directed Redemption. I've directed for hire, but I haven't directed any feature since then because I produced and then I've been making a living. You know how it is.
I do know how it is.
We
got to do these things that cobble together our indie film lifestyle,
Yeah, one way or another, even if it's for me being kind of studio adjacent, having people hire me to do things so that I can go take that money and do my independent stuff. What
sort of things is that? Like, do you like producing? You mean like producing on other projects or like?
Yeah, like right now I'm producing a series for a private individual out of Ohio called Aviation Appetite. So I'm executive producing that and helping them rewrite all the different stories. So I'm kind of, that's why I say studio adjacent, because I'm kind of the guy that they're hiring because I worked at E and all these different places and they needed somebody who understands that format. So I get the call. Or, in the past, it's been like I used to produce a lot of stuff for a lot of nonprofits and do documentary style or multi-camera stuff for them.
Okay, so I'm glad that actually you mentioned the nonprofit thing because I want to sort of You know what? We'll talk more about that off the record. You know, I want to pick your brain
Okay.
about that for a minute after.
Okay, no worries.
Like, yeah.
But on the financial side, like looking at this new project, one of the things I didn't do with my first project in terms of packaging when I conceived of the first packages is this is a film. Zero will be shot in Ohio, even though it's supposed to be in San Francisco. Most of it will be shot in Ohio. So 15 days of it I plan to shoot there, which gives us the opportunity to use the tax rebate, which on my budget, I'm hoping that I'm projecting around 400,000. That would be the rebate. So you start to see if you can, that's 400,000. Then we're looking at 250 to 500,000 to do an MG on foreign sales. And then hopefully with the people I'm looking to cast, I may be able to raise that on the foreign side. And then I have In the Black and hopefully their partners. I'm hoping to make a deal where I can either get their 400 or get my distribution guaranteed through them, through their contacts. And then I can look for that essentially 900 to, possibly 1.2 million in equity.
Do you give, I hope you get it right away. I'm excited to see,
too.
I'm excited to see it come into fruition. Do you sort of like give yourself a deadline of like, okay, now it's go time to like raise the funds and, we have to hustle and do it by this date, like, how does that work?
I, tend to not work off of, yes, I have windows I'd like to make.
Yeah.
But the process does tend to be, there is a part of it, I think, is like trusting the process, that things are going to happen when they're supposed to happen. And you just want to make sure that you have everything prepared.
Yeah.
I have some ideas of where I'm going to get this equity. I have had conversations with certain places to talk about that. So right now I'm really just building the packet. I'm really just trying to make it something that's like, by the time somebody gets it, there's no reason that's like, oh, this isn't, if they have the money and they really want to invest, this should be something they invest in. So the idea of trying to make it the most bulletproof package that I possibly can in terms of answering questions, doing my due diligence, hitting all the research, researching the project and having a real plan. And my big thing is I guess having a first AD background and a production background in that way, that I always want to present a production plan that's better than the average production plan. Getting more
it seems like you have a good track record of, it's not like it's like your first rodeo. Like you've done this several times before. So that seems like that's a big check in your favor in terms of, okay, if we give the money to Sean knows how to make a film because Sean's made a film before.
It does help. And I think depending on who you're talking to, one of my first investors, like the second investor, who was actually the guys who I knew his father, he gave us the money because he was a big fan of Discovery. My dad was an executive producer of Discovery. So you never know why you're going to get, some money from somebody. They went, oh, well, no, Discovery is he literally said, anything on Discovery I watch, it's the highest quality of thing. If your father's involved with it, you guys can have the money.
Wow.
That easy.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's like, I put my dad on my thing again.
Yeah.
I got him in there one more time. Because, hey, they're making.
So your dad worked at the Discovery Channel and stuff?
Yeah. My dad was, he ran Discovery Health, and he was an executive producer for Discovery Channel, which, he did Live from Shark Island, which was one of the first things they did. My dad also won their first Emmy by doing, he did a documentary called POW, Prisoners of War, that he was the executive producer of. It beat out 4 little girls at so they beat out Spike Lee for a TV Emmy back in the day.
Did he know David Zaslav?
Probably, I would imagine.
Yeah. It's amazing how powerful he's become from being the CEO of the Discovery Channel, and now it's like, just like being like a major power player.
Jonathan Rogers, who was my dad's really good friend and he went to Columbia, was who my dad was under. So my dad left after Jonathan Rogers, and Jonathan Rogers was probably the first super successful guy around Discovery. He'd also run CBS News before that and gotten like a $10 million buyout. So he was kind of known for like, some guys are just known for being able to get their buyout or get to their window. And Jonathan was one of those guys. He also did it to Discovery as well. So kind of like one of those little known but well known names like underneath the industry.
Yeah.
Just like my dad was actually the bureau chief. Here's a random Fox News Channel. The first bureau chief for Fox News Channel, the LA bureau, was my dad, Bob Reid.
Gotcha.
Roger Ailes took his job.
Wow. That's wild.
And we know how that turned out.
Not good. Yeah.
So
yeah, they're making
Yeah.
movies about that.
yeah, Russell Crowe's playing him.
Oh, is he?
No dad playing my dad. You know, Russell Crowe, I believe, played.
Man, Russell
Roger
Crowe could do
Ailes.
anything. I saw him like he's in Nuremberg, and he was like playing. He was talking about on the Joe Rogan podcast like that he's playing an Albanian gangster in another movie. That I'm like, I want to see that one because I'm Albanian. You know.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, but yeah, I know like Russell Crowe. Like I remember when he was in Romper Stomper. Like I remember before he was in L.A. Confidential, he was in an Australian movie called Romper Stomper, where he played an Australian skinhead.
Yes.
You know, it was a really good movie too.
That was a very popular. Like, I mean, I don't know who released that here, but I remember seeing that in L.A. like in the video store and going, "What is that?" You know, just seeing the cover and seeing him all like Superman, and his hair is like dark black.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting visual. I could see that's the thing that I don't think that we have anymore with the
you're
digital
so right, Sean. It's not the same. Like being able to physically, I remember like being a kid and then walking into a video store and just seeing like the cover of Hellraiser on VHS and just like that being like a striking visual, you know, even though I wasn't allowed to rent it or whatever, but still like just like remembering like, oh, like that's like a hardcore looking film, you know?
I'm going to sound super old, but I remember going to buy our VHS deck when my dad went to Macy's like at Christmas and bought a VHS machine, and he bought Empire Strikes Back and Gunga Din.
I used to watch Empire
So-
Strikes Back over and over and over again when I was a kid. Like that was just like on constant.
It was
My mom said that
One
she was
of my-
like that I could operate the VCR when I was like 2 or 3 years old before she knew how to operate the VCR. You know?
wow. I cut some of my first stuff with just 2 professional grade VHS decks. You know, like where I
Same.
would just go take them and go back and forth and have the old machines would have the scroller thing, the pro level ones.
Yeah.
And you could roll in black, and I would just sit there and actually that was the inspiration for Redemption on some level. The little videos that I made of my friends and then cut them together. I was basically just trying to do like Jim Morrison, you know, at UCLA Film School.
Yes.
Like it's very, you know, kind of like just looking at things and doing poetry.
Totally. No, I used to do that too. So when I was a young kid, like being like 11, 12 years old, I hooked up my VCRs together and I would like take like some movie that was out at the time, like Best of the Best Part 2 or whatever. And just like, you know, making like my own little version of it mixed in with like a home video that me and my brother did like a reenactment or something of like one of the scenes or, you know.
Yeah, and that's great that you brought up that specific film because I have worked with Eric Roberts.
Nice.
And
How was he? Was he cool?
He was great. I actually worked on him with. I used to do a lot of promos, network promos.
Yeah.
And that was when he was on was on the Crash series and Stars.
Gotcha.
So I spent a whole afternoon on the rooftop of the Sears building in downtown with him. And he was great.
That's awesome.
He's very self-disparaging, but you know, he's really easy to work with and he's fun and he seems to want to really just have fun.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed working with him. And then the Reyes brothers, I used to study at their studio in Beverly in downtown LA. So
Nice.
Connections to both. I went finding people from the best of the best because I love those 2 movies so much.
Yeah, for sure. That's a movie that got a lot of play in my house, and so did Bloodsport. Bloodsport was
Oh, of course. Oh
got
man,
a lot of play in my house, like constant watches. So
awesome.
yeah. Do you have any advice for filmmakers that are looking to raise money for an indie film, but aren't necessarily in the worlds of people that are high net worth individuals?
Well, I mean, I think it's definitely, the opportunity when you're talking about, you got to start at whatever level you can really start at, and a lot of people, they're self-financing it and putting on credit cards. I tried to personally avoid that. I wanted to do a little bit more, but I was working in production. There's whatever your opportunity, your path that you see for yourself, and wherever that is that you're going to feel comfortable and that you can be successful. I think that people, when it comes to raising money for films, they want to be a part of the process, especially I think people who are outside of, they also want to learn more, or they want to just feel like they're contributing to something that means something more than something that's, they could buy a vacation or they could buy a new car, but to be able to support a small economy of people doing something that has some kind of meaning, people can buy into that sometimes. So a lot of times I know for me and the people that I've been around, a lot of times they're not necessarily investing in the movie, they're investing in you. They really tend to like you as a person. They want to succeed as a person as long as you come with a good plan and a good thing. If they have the resources, most of these people will help you.
That's great advice, and I've heard that actually. No, it's really good advice, and I've heard that from some really credible people, both in business and in the film business.
Yeah, but have a great package. Have the best package you can possibly put together. Put together the art. There's no excuse now that we got, all these different AI type of mechanisms. I'm like an AI fiend. Like I got all different types of, I love being able to make posters and make art and be able to multi-mask, go through, let's rewrite this treatment 10 times, me, you, and AI, it's to me, it's stuff off of where you don't have to bug somebody else or not have somebody else. You've got a chance to at least get some feedback, which I know for a lot of us, really difficult.
That's so true.
That's one of the hardest things.
To have a sounding board for ideas is, I think, like really valuable.
Yeah, and so that I've been using, I think AI has accelerated my curve in the sense of that I feel like I'm just using a tool that helps me get through things a little bit faster, or is ultimately an assistant. Because I can't do all of this stuff sometimes in the amount of time that I could do them if I use AI. And if you're still the skill and the guider, you just can't. I was watching, have you watched The Pit at all?
No, but I've seen posters for it and stuff. It's with Noah Wiley
Yeah, if you like high impact, high fast, because it's by hour in an emergency room. So it's a lot of information, a lot of story, and a lot of high impact. But that whole idea, I don't even know why I brought up The Pit.
Oh, you were talking about AI. You were talking about kind of.
One of the doctors went in and suggested another doctor use AI, but then they didn't check it. So there was mistakes because everybody tells you there's mistakes. So they're sending mistakes upstairs. You gotta check this stuff.
Yeah.
You cannot assume it's going to get it right. And it often gets things, it's just like anybody else. It often gets some things completely wrong where it's like, I'm like, are you serious? I already did that. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. I didn't see it.
I know. It's funny you mentioned that because I was doing an episode right around the time that Rob Reiner tragically died. And I was doing some research about Rob Reiner. It was like, yeah, Rob Reiner died. It was like, Zef, you are mistaken. Rob Reiner is alive and well. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it's all over the news right now that he's been murdered. It's a horrible thing. And then it was like, went back. It's like, I am so sorry. I'm like, this is so crazy. I'm like, I'm getting into an argument with the AI.
Yeah, dude, you're wrong. It's just like any other person who didn't read it. for that day. I didn't check. Sorry, I didn't open up I didn't check IG. Sorry, Zef.
Yeah. It was
I just did that.
yeah, it was a puzzling moment, but it just goes to show you can't put, all your eggs in that basket. It has to be fact checked. Even the AI has to be fact checked for sure.
Yeah, I think it's as good as what you put into it to start. Like the more you know about something, the better off you are with dealing with it with AI at this point. Yeah, it'll keep growing, but it's still something you got to check and keep an eye on.
So you mentioned Zebra. Is there anything else that you're working on at the moment? Like that's like next sort of like on the horizon or next on the agenda for you? Or something that's like being currently released that you finished or?
Oh, gosh, it's currently released. I don't have anything new. I expect Black Seer Killers and the Atlanta Ripper will be out in the next 3 to 4 months. Unless I want to check
out Black Serial Killers. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Truth or Fiction. It's a very it's a very me fronted. If you don't like hearing me talk, then you probably shouldn't watch it.
Okay. It's kind of like what's that dude? He's Nick Broomfield. Broomfield.
Yeah. A little bit like that.
Yeah.
It's fully me fronting it, just kind of like this. It's like it's my old basement, and I got some background, and I just kind of talk you through it. I have Dr. Alan Branson in it, who is one of the few people who's done a lot of research on this. He went to the FBI Academy and studied. He teaches criminology in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I can't remember the name of the school, but he has done a lot of research on this and the media perceptions, and really was my inspiration. I found his paper and contacted him and went and talked to him for, an afternoon and got a lot of great information, and plan to probably talk to him again.
Cool.
I think that'll be the next one. Yeah.
And where could sort of people follow along with you and what you're doing? And I guess this is a chance to plug your website or your social.
Yeah. You can find me at Sean Reid, SeanReid, .media. I just started doing that at the beginning of the year. I've got, you can read my blog, Notes from the Field. Don't call it a blog, just call it Notes from the Field. And you can get updates on Zebra. And if you're interested in consultation, getting somebody to talk to you, look at your package, look at your stuff, you can talk to me through there.
Nice.
And all my socials on there too.
Cool. So now we're going to segue into the portion of the podcast where I ask each guest about 2 of their favorite movie scenes. And Sean chose a scene from The Hustler with Paul Newman and Jackie Gleason. Great film. Directed by Robert Rosen. Tell us a little bit about the film, why it's so important to you, in the scene itself.
Well, and don't forget also in that scene, the very powerful George C. Scott.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Man.
Yeah,
he's incredible. And that movie, The Hustler, I think I discovered around the time, like in my 18, 19, 20 in LA, and I was playing pool. The pool boom had started.
Yeah.
And it was just the tone of the movie. I'd never seen it. Definitely that era presented, on the waterfront, and The Lost Weekend, which is also one of my favorite films. They had this tone about alcoholism and gambling and things. It was much more of like an acceptance that was a way of life.
Totally.
And in that scene, Paul Newman just so eloquently talks about one thing that everybody in the room thinks they're talking about when they're really talking about what happened on this trip and what happened to this woman that, is dead. And he's claiming responsibility. We really did it to her. We really did it, Bert. We really did it. And he's like trying to defend himself. And there's just so much clear emotion. And it's just in that scene, you know, he walks out and you're just like, that's it. You're like, that's it. But you know that this guy's like wandering the earth. And it is so cool that then The Color of Money comes back and you have, you know, Paul Newman and you have that story pick up again. And I think that's also why I like it so much.
Definitely.
Because it's like, you see that guy have redemption. You see that guy come back.
I want to rewatch The Color of Money. I haven't seen it in ages. I'm going to like rewatch that film. I saw The Hustler. Even that's been a long time since I watched it, but I want to revisit that one. But I've seen The Hustler maybe like 10 years ago, but like The Color of Money, I don't think I've seen in even longer than that. So I want to revisit the film.
They're definitely worth the rewatch. I'd just seen, I think I'd rewatched The Color of Money, like maybe 3 months ago. So that's probably why I had in my mind The Hustler, because I think I did watch them both around the same time.
Did that contribute to the resurgence, like the pool boom that you were talking about of like, or was it already happening and the movie was more like just in line with that happening anyway?
I think it was already happening. It was just kind of in line with it.
Yeah.
There was definitely a bigger sense of that happening, but the LA scene, LA kind of works on its own claw. You know,
did you ever see Pool Hall Junkies?
Yes.
That's a good one too. That's a great one.
It is a good one. And it's kind of out of that. There were a few pool movies that kind of came out around that time. And I believe that was one just after. I think that
came out in like the early 2000s, Pool Hall Junkies.
Okay. So it's like definitely after.
Yeah, like 15 years later at least. But still like, it was a good one and like great Christopher Walken monologue in Pool Hall Junkies.
And there's still not a lot of pool movies.
That's so true. There's not a ton of pool movies.
And there are no darts movies. Go make one, Zef. No.
I know, right? So that's a good segue into another Scorsese film, which is Goodfellas. Obviously, Scorsese did The Color of Money, which is the sequel to The Hustler, which I think is so cool, by the way, that like The Color of Money is the sequel to this like much older film, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So Goodfellas, obviously iconic film. If you've listened to the podcast at all, I'm definitely a Scorsese apologist. I love Martin Scorsese. So I think probably everybody that listens to this podcast has seen Goodfellas. So I don't even need to give an intro to the film, but tell us about the scene itself that you're talking about. Give us some context here.
The intro scene, like how he really introduces us to the fellas. You know, there's Jimmy two times. There's that whole energy that is created around those introductions. Just being, and I can't remember a lot of it right now. Like it's interesting because I used to be able to quote that whole scene.
So the scene is like
really more.
Yeah, it has Henry Hill's voiceover, and it's just total immersion into the mob world. Like a lot of tracking shots and just like all of these like faces and Henry's sort of awe and like just like the introduction of the universe. And like there was Michael Francese and then like Frankie two times. They used to say everything two times. And
two times.
Yeah. What's funny about that?
Did you get it?
I used to.
What do you say? Did you get the thing? I got it.
I used to see a lot of these. So my dad had a business on Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, and I'm Albanian, but but it was definitely like a super Italian kind of like old school, like heavily mobbed up kind of area. And they filmed the movie A Bronx Tale over there when I was a kid. And I definitely used to see a couple of those characters in the neighborhood, like literally a couple of those guys from that sequence, like in different like coffee shops around the neighborhood, and things like that. They would hang out there a lot. So it was pretty cool.
You're definitely a peer. I mean, I lived in the city. I went to McBurney Prep for a couple years, like 2.5 years when I was 13, 14, 15. So that's 73, 74, 75. No, actually 83, 84, 85. And that's, you're still seeing the New York. You get on the train and you would see so many different characters. You just really could just make up stories in your head.
And where was this that you went to school?
That's right down this the McBurney Y. There used to be the McBurney School. That's right down the street from Lincoln Center.
Oh, okay. So you went to school in Manhattan. All right.
Yeah, I did go to school in Manhattan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I looked at, I think I looked at Walden, but McBurney ended up closing. McBurney is where Henry Winkler went.
No way.
Henry Winkler went to McBurney, the guy who wrote Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Really?
Richard Thomas. God, I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was an actor art school that had a football team and a soccer team and a basketball team and had all these teams. So it was known as kind of like a good disciplinary school in the sense of like good education, a small school, but everybody participated in everything, theater, arts, football. A guy played soccer, whatever sports you played. And it was a very demanding environment.
My uncles, because my grandparents lived on the Upper West Side because they were the superintendents of their building, and my uncles went to Xavier. So yeah, I used to grew up like going to the Lowe's movie theater on the one that was like a little further up from Lincoln Center, but like on 86th Street, like 80.
That was
like
one of my
2nd Street.
favorite ones.
Yeah, like in Broadway. That was like a great one. It was like that. I grew up constantly going to that movie theater, constantly.
We lived on 78th and Riverside.
Oh, okay, right over there. My grandparents lived on 86 between Columbus and Amsterdam. So like, like a close.
Zabar's,
Zabar's. Yeah, that's right. And the Barnes and Noble that was there. Yeah, I used to go to the Barnes and Noble a lot too, the bookstore, and there was Tower Records like further down the block, like, and it was incredible. And just going to Central Park all the time.
My dad went to Columbia graduate, so I probably was conceived in the city, and then they moved to Cleveland.
Yeah. Is your dad like a New Yorker? Did he grow up in New York?
My dad is actually from down here, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
My dad picked cotton until he was 14 years old.
Wow.
And is the first person in his family to go to college.
That's incredible. So he really like built a career for himself from nothing. Yeah.
From absolutely nothing.
That's incredible.
He was writing on the Miami Herald in high school, writing obits. Like he was a G. Like he graduated graduated high school 2 years early.
Wow.
Back at that era, being a young black kid.
Yeah.
That's it was very impressive.
That's so remarkable, man. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is he still around?
Oh yes, he's still around.
Amazing.
He's so fortunate. He's gonna be executive producing on Zebra.
God bless him. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Sean, I really appreciate you being on the podcast, man. I enjoyed talking to you.
Well, thank you so much, Zef. I really appreciate you guys reaching out. I really admire what you're doing with the podcast. It's very entertaining. You're now on my list.
Nice. Nice.
There's lots of episodes. I actually was going back and listening to your guys' Oscar episode.
Oh, okay. It's a very unconventional one.
Very unconventional, but fun.
Yeah.
I could have listened to interviews, but I'm like, no, let me listen to what he does on his own with his guy. I found that more interesting.
Yeah, Cole is really cool. So Cole reached out to you, and he's our intern. He's great, and he has such a. It's impressive because he's only 26, but he's seen all these movies. Like he's a genuine cinephile, and he's seen everything. It's incredible.
That does, yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome. So keep the great work, and of course, will let me know when this drops, and
definitely
I'll go support it, and look forward to seeing whatever you do next.